welcome everyone to another book talk by Tulika. This time we have with us Devashish Makhija and Priya Kuriyan, and we're going to talk about their latest book, Go Go Flamingo. I'm really excited to chat about this. But I think most of you all know Devashish and Priya, but for those of you who may not know, quick introduction. So, Devashish is a writer director. He's made critically acclaimed feature films like Ajib, Bhosle, Joram, and Unga, which was actually adapted into a book by Tulika Publishers and won the Neve Book Awards for Young Adults in 2021. Priya Kuriyan, one of India's most celebrated illustrators. She's also done a number of books with Tulika publishers like the Baby Bahadur series, Rooster Raga, and of course, Amachi's Glasses, and many more. So thank you both of you for joining. Really excited to chat with both of you. And fun fact, this is Devashish and Priya's second collaboration on a book. So really excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah, very happy to be here.
Okay, so just to kick things off, I think, Devashish, what kind of inspired you to write this book, Go Go Flamingo, which, to give a quick background, is a very interesting, fun story about this flock of flamingos that are migrating and are kind of looking for, I guess, food and whatnot, and kind of find themselves in a situation in the city. So what kind of inspired you to write this?
Priya Kuriyan. For many years, she's been creating these little creatures with found objects.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of this little stuff she does on the side. So one day I saw this flamingo that she had made with flower petals for wings.
Okay.
It was years ago, like 6-7 years ago. And I wrote to her saying that there's a book I wanted to do. This book, I had an idea about the flamingos that come to Sevri in Mumbai in the migratory season. And when the sea link was being built, there's a big bridge called the Worli Bandra Sea Link. The sea was slowly starting to become uninhabitable for the flamingos.
Okay.
So that there was that intent inside me, but I never knew how to do that book until I saw what Priya was doing with these found objects. And I asked her back then that would you collaborate with this style of yours? So I worked backwards from her style.
Okay.
It's what inspired the approach to. So she was, like you said, the most in-demand, most prolific artist in the kidlit scene. So she was, I think, booked for the next 5 years. And I told her, even if it takes 10 years, I said,
no, I can believe that, Priya.
And we waited, and it was so worth it because she's just done something that no other artist on the planet can do for this.
How sweet. But Priya, what were your thoughts when you first read this story and when Devashish approached you?
No, I really wanted to do the book immediately, but I think it was also quite a challenging. I think it needed that time, to just process how to do this book, and also some, mind space. So you can't do it if you're doing too much, many other things along with this kind of a book. So, but the idea was so fresh, and unlike a lot of other books that I had worked on. It was just like, so it's to kind of get a script that is like so different, it's quite, one has to grab that chance. So I knew I would do it, but take some time over it. And like when I read it, I mean, like everything Devashish writes for children, he manages to sneak in like the politics in a way that's never preachy.
Yeah.
And it's always fun. So I love that. I knew that I had a lot of potential for fun while making it, and the script itself was a lot of, fun. So I was really excited to try out something completely new. But I think it was like equal parts terrifying and exciting.
No, because I think like the books come out so well, and I think like especially the text and the pictures really go well together, and I think that's kind of one of the biggest achievements of a picture book to be able to do. But talking about the text, Devashish, you've written this in verse. So what kind of prompted you to do that? Because I mean, I think what's interesting, what even Priya mentioned, is you have a way of kind of sneaking in this sort of social messaging without being preachy, and there is sort of that irony and satire in the text as well. So what kind of prompted you to write it in verse?
again, I mean, I'm sorry at the expense of sounding repetitive, Priya Kuriyan. When she work, even in the books where she would have been brought in after the text is ready, the illustrations, Priya, that you do for thicker books of text, there is a certain lyricism to her creatures, to those lines, to the shapes of people. They feel like they're constantly in motion. They're dynamic, so you can't write anything static and do justice to her art. So it's her. If I hadn't seen her art, I wouldn't have written this book. So if you're seeing some sort of a coming together of image and text, it's because I was riffing off her style,
Okay.
the sort of dynamism in her art, no matter what book. And I was hoping that it would inspire her to bring her best to it. But it came from her work. It didn't come independent of what I saw of her work.
No, because
This
it's very
Instagram live is over.
Sorry.
I said this Instagram live is over now.
Priya can't take this. No, but it's been like you said, there is a lyricism in the writing itself. Of course, that comes from Priya's illustrations also. But it's so interesting the way you've kind of done this wordplay, and there's a lot of alliteration, and even with the flamingo names, right? All of them, start with the letter F. So how did you kind of, come up with that?
No, when you like Priya said, I do try to bring in social commentary. The social commentary is my starting point. If I can't put something I want to say about the world into a story, I will not even write that story. But then when I'm talking to younger gentlemen and ladies, I really need to make it fun. Otherwise, you lose your reader in a minute. So alliteration is one of those go-to things, like in poetry, in nonsense verse, especially for almost 1,000 years, you see alliteration is a tool that sort of makes things fun and keeps you rolling along at a certain kind of rhythm and pace. So that comes naturally to me now. I didn't really think about it. But the names of the flamingos was something that came to me very late in the writing process.
Okay.
I was struggling with the writing of this book for almost 3 years. Like Radhika, who heads Tulika, she was after me since I think 2021 or two. Like, where is Flamingos? Where is Flamingo? I'm like, I don't know. It's coming, but I'm not being able to crack it. Then last year in February, when I finally wrote it, it suddenly occurred to me that if I don't bring some sort of a personified life into the flamingos, it's not going to fly. It'll distance itself from the reader. You'll be pretty much reading it in a third person kind of thing. You will not relate to the flamingos.
Yeah.
So when I crack the names, I say I've got to give them names, and they've got to be names from all kinds of religions, but I'll make them all begin with F so that I can have fun with it. The minute I cracked that, this just flowed in 24 hours. I wrote it in less than a day.
Oh,
But it took me
wow.
4 years to crack that idea. I didn't know what it was that was not helping me, write it down.
Yeah. Because
Then,
it flows
sorry.
really well.
Yeah, the minute you personify creatures, it gives a lot of visualizing potential to the writer, and I'm hoping the artist, because then you can start to see some things about the characters that otherwise would just be a flamingo.
Yeah. No, because like I said, it flows really well, and I like the fact that you brought in like different names, right? Like say Fiona, Firdaus, Falguni. So
Yeah.
it was really interesting to see those different names kind of play out, and the way even Priya's kind of illustrated and put that out together. Like she's really personified whatever character I think you wanted. But which brings me to the illustration process, Priya, because this is quite different from a lot of other books you've done. So how different was it for you, and what was your process like working on this?
Yeah. So I think I'm someone who really likes working with a plan in mind.
Okay.
So for my book. So but in this case, I think there was really a limit to how much I could plan. So I was not in my comfort zone, completely in my comfort zone while working on this, which is also a nice thing, I think, for artists, to kind of do something that they that surprises them a little bit. So, because so much depended on the kind of objects that I would ultimately find for the book. So I had to work with a lot of unpredictability and, the fact that I can't control everything. Uh, so, and like for other books, the process is very, I've gone through the process many times, so you do your character designs, you put pen to paper, you do a storyboard, and then, and then it's pretty much about following that plan, after that, what's going to happen. But like in this case, like till the end, I was not sure for each page, I was not sure what the result would be like. So in between, there's quite a bit of anxiety also, while working on something like this. So I did make a rough storyboard based on with Dave's, script, and but I really had to adapt and change a lot depending on, what I found. So I think I spent maybe the first 2 months just like lovingly looking at other people's trash, my trash, and, collecting, like to the horror of many people, collecting things, keeping them in my studio. And I think I sort of made a library of things.
Okay.
So, there'll be like one section which is just loose plastic bags, one section which is digital waste, or one section which is these larger objects. So I just like keep them in my studio, which looked like completely as though there was an earthquake or something that had happened, like for the time I was working on this book. And so then based on the rough storyboards, I sort of, I would draw and then cut out these flamingos. And but that was also a bit challenging because, the flamingos, the objects are of a certain size. So the flamingos you draw and cut out also have to be of that size. And then I would sort of place these cutouts of the flamingos with the object, juxtapose them, and try and sort of shoot them, so that it's like in proportion to the flamingo. The object and the flamingo are of like the correct proportion. And that's because I wanted it to look authentic, and also effortless.
Yeah.
So,
Which
and
it
that's
does.
which couldn't have happened if I had done everything, just, done everything on Photoshop, like, just copy pasted all these images together on Photoshop. So I would take pictures of this, shoot it, then finally take it to Photoshop and, try and minimize the use of Photoshop as much as possible. But ultimately I did have to do that. And then I drew some of the backgrounds digitally, which are very minimal backgrounds actually. And then like, so each image was, and then I would just like discover the images that sort of came out each time. Each time I would finish a page, I would discover the image myself.
But then how easy or challenging was it then to kind of source the materials that you really needed for each image?
Yeah, so I mean, sourcing, some things were, I had to kind of wait a bit for the right object. The tire was the last, the cycle tire that I used. So that was, I think, maybe the most challenging in the sense because I had to find the right kind of tire.
Okay.
But yeah, we are humans and we consume too much and we produce a lot of trash. So that way, it's all around us. So it wasn't very difficult.
Okay. But, coming to, like I said earlier, both of you have collaborated on a book before, and you've worked on several other children's books as well.
Yeah.
What do each of you find challenging and fun about creating stories for kids? Devashish, would you like to go first?
No.
Okay. Yeah, would you go first then?
I think the fun part is just like, I think maybe like stretching, the limits of imagination and just, being able to exaggerate, because I think children are very willing to suspend their disbelief of, sometimes the adults who are not willing to do that. So I think that bit, when you're drawing, sketching, that's the fun part. I think for me, challenging is just, being able to tell a story with less, a good story with
Yeah.
less things. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I find most challenging.
Yeah, I'll riff off that second thing, Priya, that you said. It's there's a difference between simple and simplistic.
Yeah.
Uh, Often people who are trying to be simple about what they're saying, they sort of tip over into simplistic, and that's when things become preachy. You're starting to spell things out, so it's really hard to check yourself from being simplistic and to be simple yet be able to communicate big ideas. Because like suspension of disbelief, yes, the children are more capable of it than parents, adults, because they haven't gotten jaded by life, but they are also that much more receptive to big, profound ideas. But you can't lay them out in very complicated ways. You got to put them out there in a very simple manner. So to crack that takes the longest.
Mm.
It takes, like in the case of this book, it took me years to crack. I mean, if I'm telling you this now, it's almost hard to believe that how did it not occur to me that I should give names to flamingos? It took me 3 years to realize that I needed to give names to flamingos. It's a very simple thing, but I didn't see that I needed that, and the story was just not coming until I personified them. It's a simple idea, but it took a very long time to arrive at.
What do you find most fun?
It is stressful, I find, but I find it very satisfying. So the satisfaction of being able to put so many big ideas into something so small and simple is the fun, but the making of it or the writing of it is not so fun because it's not easy. Because I've written novels, I write film, I write feature films and short films. They are slightly easier than writing a children's book, especially when I'm trying to put bigger ideas across.
Yeah. Yeah. As we always say, I mean, I think writing for children is not child's play by any means.
Yeah,
Uh, it's definitely an
but
acquired skill
but it's
for sure.
very satisfying if you get it
Yeah,
right. There's nothing more satisfying.
definitely. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think coming to the book itself, do both of you have any favorite pages or spreads you'd like to share?
I'll have to.
Would you like to go first?
But more importantly, do you know that Priya made some behind the scenes pictures of how she made the.
Sorry, I didn't get
Priya
that.
has some behind the scenes photographs of
Oh,
how she made.
that's something you
They
can.
are more interesting than the book, some of them.
It's just me doing lots of acrobatics.
You might want her to share some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
This is my favorite spread, actually.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Many flamingos slowly losing their.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice. Honestly, I love all the spreads in the book, so which sounds like such a cop out, but it's true.
Yeah, they're pretty great. All the pages are great.
Yeah. Priya, do you have a favorite?
I'm
I
Or Devashish,
actually
what do you want to share?
I'm buying an extra copy to tear the pages out and frame them.
Okay.
maybe this one. I think I love the name Firdaus,
Oh, that's a
and
really nice. Yeah.
I just really like working with these. I thought it looked quite stylish at the end of it.
Yeah.
It really looked like slick.
No, it looks. I think this one is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was the first.
Yeah, I
I think
really
that is the first
liked that one. Yeah.
illustration, I believe.
But yeah, I mean, so more reasons for all of you to go pick up a copy of this book, honestly. But yeah, I think,
The cycle tire that.
yeah, that's also, yeah. Like I said, I like all the spreads in this book. It's very difficult to choose.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, I mean, finally, what are both of you hoping for readers to sort of experience, while immersing themselves in the story? Who'd like to go
I don't
first?
think about. I want every young reader to think about the amount of waste we are generating. Like, I mean, it's ironic that we're having an Instagram live here and we're generating e-waste by the second. So there's no limit to our carbon footprint anymore. even if we try to, can we really turn this clock back? I don't know, but we need to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope whoever's reading it sees themselves in this book, because the whole irony that Devashish brings out in the story it's about us,
Yeah.
So, I hope people get that.
Yeah. No, like I
Yeah,
said, it's a
it's
very
all,
fun.
yeah. No, it's all fine, seeing really fun flamingos inside a book, but do we know that flamingos are dying right
Yeah.
here, like a couple of 100 kilometers away? Because every year they have to fly this way. Half the flock doesn't fly back; they get stuck in this garbage
Yeah.
and oil slicks.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. It's a very fun story, but the way you've kind of conveyed the message in the book is very I think it's very visceral, it's very impactful. Like it really stays with you once you finish reading, and I think even with the illustrations, it really you visualize and it stays in your mind.
It's actually a
So
very unusual ending for a children's book,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
also what I like.
yeah. Which we're not going to give away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but
yeah,
I must mention Tulika here because the editors they actually pushed to give the book a slightly foreboding ending, and
yeah,
I'm relentlessly surprised by Tulika because they take these risks. They sort of don't hold back when a book is trying to say something. You won't find a lot of books allowing you to do that.
yeah. Yeah, I think we have an amazing team of editors, and like I said, I'm always proud to be a part of this publishing house. But thank you to so much for being a part of today's session, and for everyone listening, please go grab a copy of Go Go Flamingo. You can grab it on our website from our store. So please do pick up a copy of this lovely book by Devashish Makhija and Priya Kuriyan. Thank you both of you for being here today. It was so lovely talking to both of you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Okay, I will
See you.
end. Yes. Bye.